This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
It's great that we have students that want to go to higher education, but the truth is it doesn't help you if you can't afford it. And so we're going to keep doing everything we can to make higher education more affordable.
Governor Rick Scott wants to help students graduate on time, make textbooks more affordable, freeze tuition and fees. Sounds great, right? But will the state legislature go along? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on Governor Scott's plan to make college more affordable in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. No ordinary times. There have been a lot of headlines over the last week since Donald Trump became president, but it's his executive order on immigration and refugees which is provoking the ire of many Democrats and even some Republicans. Not only did thousands take to the streets protesting the executive order, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are blasting it, including Republicans Lindsey Graham and John McCain, who say the order will become a self-inflicted wound in the fight against terrorism. Senate Democratic leader Charles Schumer called the ban un-American. At the White House this morning, President Trump accused Schumer of overreacting.
I noticed Chuck Schumer yesterday with fake tears. I'm going to ask him who is his acting coach, because I know him very well. I don't see him as a crier. If he is, he's a different man. There's about a 5% chance that it was real, but I think they were fake tears.
The White House says the order is not a ban on Muslims. It does ban nearly all travelers from 7 predominantly Muslim countries for 90 days: Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. Protests are popping up across airports around the country, some taking to the streets around the Suncoast, where demonstrators are calling the ban unconstitutional. Many of them showed up outside Congressman Vern Buchanan's office in Sarasota.
This country has been built by immigration, and to punish thousands for the acts of a few, I don't see how this in any way helps protect us.
It's a temporary ban. He's trying to get a handle on it. He said he would do this during the campaign. I think the people who voted for him expect him to do this. Personally, I think it's the right thing to do.
Yesterday's big night in Hollywood also turned political. Several winners at this weekend's SAG Awards spoke out against President Trump's controversial order.
Everyone in airports that belong in my America, we love you and we welcome you.
The truth is, actors are activists no matter what, because we embody the worth and humanity of all people.
The U.S. Acting Attorney General is speaking out and says the Justice Department, under her watch, will not defend the refugee order in court. For a second full day, Manatee County commissioners are listening to those for and against the plan allowing Mosaic to expand its mining operation. The company wants approval to rezone 3,600 acres east of its Wingate mine for phosphate mining. The hearing was delayed after a sinkhole opened at Mosaic's Mulberry plant last fall, leading to more than 200 million gallons of contaminated water leaking into one of Florida's main aquifers.
I just don't want them there because that's my livelihood, and I want to go forward with my business. As a contributor to society, I can no longer do that.
We've been operating in this area since the early 80s, with peaceful coexistence, not only with our neighbors, with Duet Preserve, and we've monitored the site, we've maintained the relationships with our neighbors.
The meeting has been continued until February 15th, when Mosaic will have a chance to respond to the concerns expressed by the public. A decision is expected at that time. If the county says yes to Mosaic, it will soon need a permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. 2017 may be the year corrections officers in Florida finally get a pay raise. Over the last 10 years, state legislators have only increased the salaries of officers in Florida's prison system once. This year, Governor Rick Scott is pushing for $38 million to boost the pay for the majority of the state's 24,000 corrections and probation workers. Salaries for entry-level officers would rise by 8.5%. Sergeants, lieutenants, and captains would see a 10% increase. Scott is releasing his spending plan tomorrow. Good news, parents. Florida's annual back-to-school tax-free weekend may be 1 week longer this year. Legislation is being proposed to create a 10-day sales tax holiday. Last year's shopping period lasted just 3 days because of dwindling tax revenues. The tax break would apply to clothing under $100, school supplies, and personal computers.
Even though it's not a huge amount of savings for an individual or a family, it is enough to make a difference. They like it, the families like it, they look forward to this.
The tax holiday proposal will be considered during the legislative session that starts on March 7th. We have been reporting the Atlanta Braves are in negotiations to move their spring training home to Northport, but questions are now being raised about the infrastructure in the West Villages. Major changes would have to be made to widen the roads and add sewer and utilities. Some residents fear that they will be responsible for flipping the bill. City officials say the developer is responsible.
That's why they have an improvement district. The district pays for the infrastructure so that the city of Northport taxpayers are not burdened with the cost of private development.
The developer, Matami Homes, was not available for comment. Bob, it's warming up a little bit.
A lot of comments, yeah, on our weather as a result of the cold front that moved through over the weekend, brought some rain, chilly weather Saturday, Sunday, and then even today, temperatures were below average. But the news is it is going to warm up. We're going to see high temperatures back above average fairly quickly. A beautiful sunset tonight on a chilly day, really. Temperatures were only into the mid-60s. You see some high cirrus clouds coming in. What we had is a lot of sunshine today as opposed to what we saw over the weekend, and a gorgeous sunset tonight. As far as our current conditions go, we have fair skies and 54, so the temperature dropping quickly as a result of the sun getting below the horizon just after 6 o'clock this evening. The dew point 35 degrees. Humidity very low, 49%. Winds out of the west-northwest at 5, and the pressure is continuing to rise. No rainfall around this evening. We don't anticipate much rain, but there's the frost advisory. All the counties in blue under a frost advisory tonight. We're going to get patchy frost into Wauchula, Arcadia, Sebring, and Highlands County, Hardee and DeSoto counties. Not much in Manatee and Sarasota counties. In fact, temperatures there will still be cold, but we're not anticipating any significant frost in Sarasota and Manatee counties. Now, we did get some rain over the weekend, about a quarter inch in most areas near the coast, and looks like that rain is out of the forecast for now. Temperatures currently into the 50s, most of the state, 60 though, and 67 in Miami, and into the 60s in Key West. Temperatures again into the mid to upper 50s across the region. The Gulf water temperature has cooled to 65. It was at 70 just last week, so temperatures are starting to chill out. Your evening planner, look for 40s by 11 o'clock tonight. So indeed, a winter-like evening for Florida standards. Back to
saving on the electric bill.
That's right, absolutely.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. And still to come, finish in 4 and save more. Former college students owe more than $1 trillion in student loan debt. How Governor Rick Scott wants to help students graduate on time and earn their degree without a high amount of debt.
Check out mysuncoast.com/dining, your guide to the foodie lifestyle.
Attention blood clot filter patients. Surgically implanted blood clot filters are potentially life-threatening. Some filters are prone to breaking, resulting in pieces of the filter moving through the body and causing internal bleeding. If you had surgery to implant a blood clot filter, you may be entitled to a cash award, even if you haven't suffered side effects yet. Call the Gold Shield Group now, 888-747-5291, to see if you qualify for a cash award, 888-747-5291.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
I owed the IRS $20,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
We saved our home and overcame the most powerful collection agency in the world.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions Now.
Call 1-800-565-7740. That's 1-800-565-7740.
I heard about the Detoli Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Detoli Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
and that helped precisely identify where my cancer was and some additional cancers that were not found during the biopsy. I would recommend the Detoli Cancer Center. As a group of human beings, they are unbelievably great.
It's music to the ears of not only college kids, but especially their parents. Governor Rick Scott is proposing to make the cost of college in Florida more affordable. But how? And can he sell his plan to the state legislature? ABC7's Kate Flexter joins us with all the answers, Kate.
Well, Alan, it's called Finish in 4, Save More. And the goal is simple: make higher education more affordable and the path to graduation faster.
It's a difficult thing to have to, okay, now I'm out of college, now I have to pay back all this money that I took out to pay for college.
For college student Louis Carey, even with help from his parents, he'll likely be left with student debt when he graduates this spring.
And sometimes you have to take jobs that you don't want to take and aren't really the way you want your career to go, just solely because you need the money to pay off your student loans right away.
Carey is part of an epidemic plaguing students nationwide: student debt. And reason why Governor Rick Scott, who has spent much of his time in office laser focused on jobs, is pulling for legislative and budget proposals that would make higher education more affordable and the path to graduation quicker.
It's great that we have students that want to go to higher education, but the truth is it doesn't help you if you can't afford it.
The National Student Loan Data System reports $1.3 trillion in outstanding federal student debt nationwide. And in Florida, just 44% of undergraduates at state universities graduate in 4 years. Scott's proposal is an attempt to change those statistics by broadening Bright Future scholarships to cover summer classes, eliminating sales tax on textbooks, freezing all fees at state colleges and universities, and capping tuition at state colleges.
I fully support his efforts to make sure that college and university education here in Florida is affordable to everybody, and I'm going to do everything I can to help make sure it gets passed.
State Representative Joe Gruder says the proposal already has his stamp of approval, and he expects it will pass the state legislature.
He's trying to make sure that students have the ability to work their way through school and to not have to mortgage their future house and future lives to go through the education system here in Florida.
Part of that education system is New College, with a low in-state tuition under $7,000 per year. And the college reports 62% of its students graduate with no college debt at all.
The investment that a student, that a family makes in a student's education is arguably the most important investment they'll make in that student's life.
That said, the college's provost, Stephen Miles, says student debt is a nationwide crisis that could affect a student's ability to pursue certain career paths.
Your early years after college, which should be the years in which you're establishing yourself and really positioning yourself within your career, you can be burdened down by the debt, and that limits your choices.
Miles says, though, if the legislation passes, it will be crucial to strike a balance between making education affordable and maintaining quality.
If tuition is limited and fees are limited, we hope that the legislature will also provide some additional support to the universities. We don't want the quality of the education to be compromised.
While opinions may vary, Miles says the overall goal of making higher education affordable and attainable is something educators and legislators can all agree on.
We want students to pay as little as possible. We want them to be intentional and to graduate in 4 years, and we want them to take a long view and be positioned for prosperous and productive lives. We can differ on one point or another, but I think we're all in agreement on those basic points.
This is not the first time Governor Scott has advocated for more affordable higher education.
Kate, thank you. We'll talk it over with a high school guidance counselor, a representative of a local college, and an economist. When we come back, we take it to the trapezoid.
At SWC Properties, we pride ourselves in providing to you the very best in customer satisfaction, and the secret's getting out. Maybe that's why so many people have chosen to list their homes with our friendly and qualified agents. After all, it only makes sense to list with a growing agency that markets in so many places. To list your home with SWC, give us a call at our office and ask for Teresa Witt.
Ciao, amici! It's time for Carnevale de Cani, Top Dog 2017. Benefiting Dante's Den is the Carnival of Dogs. Join us at the Francis for an evening of great food and fun as dogs compete for the title of Best Dressed, Best Hair, Best Kiss, and Best Singer. Top Dog is a party for dog lovers and their four-legged best friends. Come celebrate our favorite pets at Top Dog 2017, Saturday, February 4th at 6 p.m.
The official salon of ABC7. Cutting Loose Salon.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
Call right now to get your free Senior Care Compass ebook. Find out about the 5 best-kept secrets on financing senior care and assisted living.
Call now, 800-290-0352. 800-290-0352.
Welcome back. We just told you about Governor Rick Scott's proposal, Finish in 4, Save More. It would help college students save money and help them graduate with undergraduate degrees in 4 years by broadening Bright Future scholarships to cover more classes, eliminating sales tax on textbooks, freezing all fees at state colleges and universities, and capping their tuition at state colleges. Joining us for more to discuss Governor Scott's proposal are Thomas Vo from the State College of Florida, Jacob Harding from the Out of Door Academy, and Michael Snipes from the University of South Florida. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. And Jacob, I'll start with you because you deal on the front end with students and parents, many of whom have angst when they are starting this. And I'm going through this myself because my son's going to be going to college next year, and I know that when parents get into this process, they're so often, encountering sticker shock.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, right? And I think that's one of the biggest issues in higher education. I think that there's an inherent value in advising. Hopefully, I think I find value in what I'm doing. But many parents come in worried. How are they going to be able to afford this? I'm privileged enough to work at an independent school where we have a large portion of our families who can afford higher education, but we also are about 20% first-generation college student, a lot of kids on scholarships, so their concerns are very real. How can they pay, at the high end $250,000, maybe at the state level $80,000 for a college graduate?
And of that, it comes under a lot of different categories, but what is the, what part of the tuition package are they most concerned about?
Yeah, so I think it really depends on what type of institution. Obviously, we're talking a lot about state institutions here. So there is the tuition piece. The fees have gone up steadily. Depending on major, those could be higher at some of the state institutions. So that's a cause for concern that a lot of times parents don't think about. The book expense as well is something that isn't generally planned for in a lot of families.
And Thomas, a key part of Governor Scott's proposal here is getting students to graduate in 4 years because it's more efficient. And it costs less, but many students, take an extra semester or another year, and it drives up the cost. So, how do you think this would work?
Well, from my understanding of reading the regulations, is that it's twofold actually with the Bright Futures. It's not only providing funding throughout the summer, it's also making the regulations less stringent. In the 2011-2012 State Bright Futures regulations, they had for the Florida Medallion Scholarship, ACT score minimum of 20 ACT score and a 970 SAT score to qualify. In 2013, the regs became more strict, where it was a minimum ACT score of 26 and also an SAT score of 1170.
And that really impacted a lot of students and families, didn't it?
It did, actually, in the fact that a lot of our minority and economic challenged students actually ended up not being eligible. We saw within that time frame of 2 years, those eligible decreased by 50% from 2011 to 2013.
Michael, on an economic basis, could you give us some kind of sense of what this costs Florida families in terms of their bigger picture?
Sure. I think one of the approaches that we could look at, or one of the things we could look at, is really looking at where Florida ranks relative to other states in terms of the total amount of students, or total amount of debt that students graduate with. And in that respect, Florida is actually doing really well. Florida ranks, I believe it's 47th in terms of the total amount of debt that students graduate with. We're lower than the national average. And in fact, the amount of student debt that students are taking on in Florida is actually decreasing. So this, in 2015, the average, 2016, the average was $23,000, and that actually had gone down.
$23,000 over 4 years?
Over 4 years.
Right.
Over 4 years, and that had actually gone down from 2015 numbers. So I think kind of bigger picture, it's important to kind of keep in mind where Florida ranks relative to the rest of the country. We're actually doing pretty well here.
And to chime in on that, the average actually student loan nationally, student loan debt for a 4-year undergraduate education is $30,100 as of 2015. So Florida is, as confirming, is below than the national average at this time.
We have a long way to go before this becomes law and would go into effect, but you're dealing right now with students and families that have to make plans now for what may or may not happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so getting back to what I was talking about before, I think that the value is in advising. I think one of the challenges for a lot of public schools in the state of Florida is an under-advising when it comes to the college process. Simply put, it's a pretty complex process, right? I'm sure you're going through it yourself with FAFSA and CSS profiles and all these other things. And it becomes alphabet soup for a lot of parents. They really can't identify what is the important things and what are the things that maybe aren't as important to their child's process, because each process is inherently different. So I think one of the things when we counsel a lot of our lower income students, looking at options out of state, right? One of the offerings that you can look at in out of state privatized options are 100% need met schools, where these schools will meet 100% of your demonstrated interest outside the state of Florida. In the state, unfortunately, we don't have any of those.
Right, but that also depends upon, correct me if I'm wrong, what their GPA is and their test scores, correct?
And so does Bright Futures. And as my colleague said, unfortunately, data has shown, research has shown that minorities generally are at a disadvantage when it comes to standardized testing. Socioeconomic classes are at a disadvantage. There's definitive gaps within the socioeconomic classes for standardized testing. Many of these 100% need med schools actually are test optional, so they don't even look at standardized testing to kind of level the playing field for opportunity.
All right. We are just getting started. Bob will be back with your forecast after this and then more of our conversation, so stay with us.
We're losing exotic animals on a daily basis, and the ones that we have in captivity are really the ambassadors for their wild counterparts. I'm Clayton Rozier from the Big Cat Habitat and Gulf Coast Sanctuary, housing over 150 exotic animals that needed a great home. And if you love animals, please help them. Do it locally. Support your local no-kill shelters, your local wild animal sanctuaries. Make a difference where you can.
I'm calling in regards about my mother, and I'm here, and I just want to thank you because it saved my mother's life yesterday. And I'd like to know the names of the people that came in and saved her so I could call and thank them. And she's doing fine. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
When you fall and cannot get up, an accident can turn into a tragedy. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast. Life Alert saves a person from a catastrophe every 10 minutes.
Life Alert is a lifesaver. If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-652-3012. That's 1-800-652-3012. Call now, 1-800-652-3012. For a free brochure, call 1-800-652-3012.
We will continue our discussion about the governor's higher education proposal in just a moment, but first, Bob catches us up with the weather. Bob.
Well, beautiful, I'll tell you, sunset tonight, Alan. You got to look at this. Van Wezel webcam showing time lapse. Beautiful day, too. Lots of sunshine. Although it was cool and breezy, a lot better than the weekend's weather. And we see these high-level cirrus clouds coming in from the west. And just a beautiful, gorgeous sunset tonight. And now things are looking pretty good as far as the overnight temperatures go. It will be on the cooler side. This was another nice sunset last night from Norm. Appreciate that photo. And this one from Venice today. You got to look at that sundog, if you will, the refraction of the sun's light onto some cirrus clouds, which act as a prism and cause that effect to occur. That was from Kimberly Slade. Appreciate that. And we have this cool weather in effect now across all of the southeast as a result of this northwesterly flow today. And that northwest wind is going to let up somewhat. It has been strong throughout the day. It'll become more easterly tomorrow, east to southeasterly, and that will have us warm up a little bit. We'll get back into the at least upper 60s tomorrow for highs and then go back above it as we move into Wednesday. Well, if you were sneezing a little bit more today, it's because the pollen count was high at a 9.6. Tuesday's forecast is calling for the trees to be high in pollen count once again, and the forecast is 8.9, a little lower. The top allergens, juniper, maple, and oak pollen at this point. Now, in the current conditions, we have 54 degrees. Temperatures dropped about 10 degrees just in the last hour and a half. The dew point temperature is at 35 degrees, and the temperature can never go below the dew point. The dew point is what we look at in terms of how much moisture content is in the atmosphere. And as the temperature cools to the dew point, that's when dew forms, and also frost and fog. So we'll keep an eye on that. As far as that goes. No frost for Sarasota, Manatee counties at this point, but there's a frost advisory well inland. The high today was well below the average of 72. We'll be a little closer to that 72 number tomorrow after a chilly start to Tuesday. We'll warm up into the upper 60s to low 70s. Now, as far as the overnight lows go tonight, into the 40s mainly across most of the region. We will see some upper 30s inland, and then look for temperatures, the forecast tomorrow into the upper 60s to low 70s. And then again, not as cool tomorrow night. And Wednesday morning, we'll see lows right around 50 degrees or so, and we'll warm back up into the mid-70s by Wednesday afternoon. Lows tonight, though, upper 30s, low to mid-40s right near the coast, and right near the water will be into the mid-40s to upper 40s there, but 42 in Sarasota, 39 at Lakewood Ranch, 48 Longboat Key, the same at Anna Maria, and Braden, you'll start off at around 45 degrees tomorrow morning. Well, the overall wind flow was strong today. We had winds out of the north, anywhere from 10 to 15, gusts as high as 20. They'll subside considerably tomorrow. All the beach advisories and coastal advisories have been dropped. We were under a small craft advisory, also rip current advisory, and high surf advisory. Those have all been expired, allowed to expire. We'll forecast tomorrow lots of sunshine. Notice these clouds here will start to move more in a westerly direction. That's because those winds turn to an easterly direction around the area of high pressure, which continues to dominate and will continue to dominate our weather. Just off the Carolina coast. Well, a little snowstorm causes some problems, a little clipper system, if you will, moving through Michigan and also into Wisconsin and Minnesota tonight. But they're expecting some accumulation, not a major winter storm by any stretch, but we will see some higher amounts into Wisconsin, also near Buffalo, where the lake effect snows will be occurring. But generally about 1 to 3 inches of snowfall from the nation's capital up through the northeast. Temperatures are not bitterly cold, except Toronto in the teens there. Elsewhere, things are relatively mild considering what time of year we're in. And looks as though temperatures will start to gradually warm all across the southern plain states. We'll be back into the upper 70s to low 80s. That's right, upper 70s to low 80s into Texas, into Louisiana, and Florida as early as Thursday of this week. While the wind chill and boating, east winds turn to the southwest at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be running 2 to 3 feet with a light chop out there in the bays and inland waters. A 7-day forecast shapes up with cool weather on Tuesday, but warmer above average by Wednesday. And then look for temperatures to stay into the mid to upper 70s right through the weekend. Good weekend ahead after this past one we dealt with. Al will be right back after this.
Are you paying too much for your cable or satellite TV? The U.S. government passed a bill mandating free over-the-air digital transmission of all broadcast network television channels. That means with the new TV Freeway digital antenna, you can get free HD programming from your favorite broadcast networks 24/7 without a bill. You just plug it into the back of your TV and start watching all of your favorite broadcast programs for free. There are no contracts to sign, no hidden fees, and no monthly fees. Just free HD broadcast TV. Take it with you anywhere. Call or go online now to get your TV Freeway stick for the incredibly low price of only $14.99. But wait, call or click now and you can get a second TV freeway stick for a second TV. Just pay a separate fee, but you have to order right now.
Call 1-800-809-5196 to get your TV Freeway. Call now or go to tvfreeway.com. So call 1-800-809-5196. This offer's not in any store. Call now.
Cancer does change people's lives. It is frightening. The treatment for fear is hope. And what works for you is not necessarily going to work for somebody else. It does take a whole team. This is a facility that really cares about the outcome of the patients. So our job at Saris Memorial Hospital is to meet the needs of that individual any way we need to meet them.
Welcome back. We're talking about Governor Rick Scott's plan to make college more affordable with Thomas Vo of the State College of Florida, Jacob Harding from the Out-of-Door Academy, and Michael Snipes from the University of South Florida. We were talking in the break that, on one hand, some of the things that this help will go towards is going to cut down in terms of the fees that students and their parents would pay, but that also might create a situation where the state's universities and colleges are hurting for cash if you're freezing fees and tuition. So the question would be, are schools concerned about the impact it's going to have in terms of their bottom line?
Well, while I can't speak on behalf of State College of Florida, there's two stances I feel about this. First off, any chance you can help our students and make college more affordable, whether it be through year-round summer, bright futures, and textbook affordability, I'm all for it. But at the same sense, what's it actually costing? This reminds me actually of a similar program when the Department of Ed went with year-round Pell, summer Pell, in 2009, 2010.
Right. But before you get there, that's the other part of it, that a key part of Governor Scott's proposal is to extend the merit scholarships to summer classes so kids could be able to get out in 4 years. But it comes with a hefty price tag. They estimate somewhere between $26 and $47 million. Knowing the composition of the state legislature right now, that's not a gimme that the state legislature would either go for that or continue that into the future.
That's correct. We know that the state bright futures funds are funded by the Florida Lottery, but it's also supplemented by our state institutions and state universities as well, 5% in fact, up to 5%. So the problem here is actually gauging how many students are going to be enrolling in the summer and qualifying for this. Getting a true figure between 26 and 47 million. How are we going to be able to really tell and project really? It comes down to analysts and actually doing their studies. But in 2009, 2010, Department of Ed implemented a federal Pell Grant program, and within 2 years, the summer Pell was gone because they projected poorly in the fact that it ended up costing them 5 to 7 times of their projections. So they had to actually get rid of it within 2 years.
Right. And Jacob, I would imagine that's part of the big angst that parents may feel is that they don't know what's going to happen in the future, either on the state level or, as we were talking, the federal level with Pell Grants.
Absolutely, right. So you can plan, you can have your nest egg, and you can plan for college, but there are tuition increases. Across the country, there are tuition increases. There are schools that do a great job of limiting or freezing their tuition, and there are schools who it's you know, at those most selective Ivy League-esque institutions, you're running in close to $70,000 all in.
Michael, what is the biggest reason why tuition increases in terms of, I mean, does the economy have a huge impact in terms of the overall strength of the economy?
In terms of what you're going to be paying for tuition and fees and things like that, overall the economy doesn't necessarily affect tuition prices. It doesn't necessarily affect fees that you're going to be paying. These are things that do tend to move together, so you do tend to see tuition rising at the same time you see overall prices increasing. But really, when we're looking at what are some of the causes for why tuition has been increasing over the past 20 years, really only a very small amount can be attributed to overall just general price increases. We have to look at other factors that could be increasing tuition besides. Well, one of the big factors that's been pointed at in a lot of recent studies has really been looking at the expansion of administrative roles, right? And those tend to be the most highly paid positions at universities are your presidents, your provosts, your deans. Those tend to be the high salary individuals, and the more you have of those type of workers, the more administrators you have, that tends to increase tuition.
And people should keep in mind that college costs in Florida are among the lower in the country.
Certainly, certainly. And again, you know, we go back to some of the points we brought up. You know, Florida is doing fairly well. And I think that at least part of the reason why Florida students tend to graduate with debt lower than the national average, I think there's a couple things that we can look at. Just one in general is Florida's tuition for the state schools does tend to be lower than every other state, you know, most of the other states out there. And we can also look at the effect of, you know, just of private schools, because the students that tend to graduate with the most debt tend to come from the Northeast. I believe Connecticut, students that graduate from Connecticut schools have the most student debt. And when you look at the composure of schools.
Thank goodness I moved from Connecticut to Florida.
Right.
Jacob, let me ask you this. I mean, as you counsel parents through this process, what part does the uncertainty about where the state and the federal government will be in terms of its aid come into play in terms of what kind of college that they pick?
So I think there's a lot of trust. I think there's a lot of trust that the families give me and my staff in college counseling to say, you know, this is what it'll cost around and do a lot of the legwork. I think this whole conversation is about two things. It's about affordability and access. Right? And if you look at the reasons why students aren't graduating 4 years, or you're looking at the reasons why it may be taking 6 years and debt is rising, there's only really a handful of kind of data points, right? One is that students aren't getting the advising they need when they get to college, so it's taking them longer to graduate. The other is that they're holding part-time jobs and full-time jobs, something that many of us can relate to in our college experiences. I think the other really big point is looking at change of major. 80% of students change their major while in college, and that can put them on a different track that may take longer. So there's a number of reasons why they may take longer to get through school, right? So the affordability piece. And then the access piece is students just not knowing, right? We know what we're familiar with. For a lot of my independent school parents, it may be some of the more prestigious institutions, right? The Ivy Leagues in the North. For another sect of my family, it's UF and FSU and USF and kind of the flagships of the state. And that's what they're familiar with because they're from Florida. So I think having more education out there, more advising, both in the college level to ensure four-year graduation rates, as well as advising in our public sector is critical.
Another part of this, which I think most people are not aware of, part of the governor's proposal is to cut the fees for teaching assistants. Some people might think that, you know, if you're a teaching assistant in a school that you would be, you know, working your way towards your education here, and it would be good news if you are helping teaching assistants really make it through college easier.
Well, that's maybe one thing I can speak at, because when I was going through graduate school, I was a teaching assistant, and a lot of the time, a lot of the wages or salaries you're getting as a teaching assistant tend to be fairly low. It's not a huge part of the budget. And so if that was something that we could look at it to maybe try and control costs, would be looking at how much we pay teaching assistants. I would argue that there would be maybe better ways that we could approach things, because the amount of money that goes towards teaching assistants is not going to be a large amount.
So what would be a better way?
What would be a better way? Well, that's a very good question. So some ways that we could maybe try and control, maybe not necessarily the rise in tuition, but maybe the overall cost in general. We could look at some policies maybe after students graduate. Maybe we could look at some ways we could maybe try and control interest rates on student loans. That could be one thing that we could do. Maybe we could expand maybe grace periods. So when you graduate, a lot of the time you have a grace period when you can go and find a job in order to pay down this debt. Maybe that's another thing we could look at.
Let me put it this way. If this proposal goes nowhere, where are we going to be in terms of making college more affordable in Florida, or are, you know, working families going to continue to be challenged in terms of being able to afford college for their kids? I think, again, just to stress, the advising up front is critical. For example, your state schools, State College of Florida, our tuition costs are one of the most valuable in the state, the lowest and most economical. We charge about over $102 per credit. Now, if you look at our students, our average student receives nearly $3,300 a year in federal Pell Grant.
So the key to upfront is letting students know you're getting $3,300 a year in federal Pell Grant. Your tuition for 24 credits is a little more than $2,400. Your Pell Grant is fully covered. Why do you need a student loan? Is there really a need for that? It's the upfront advising on that. A lot of the student loan debt and student loan debt crisis that's going on right now is, are students actually borrowing for their needs? And that comes down to advising up front, whether it be making students go do entrance counseling up front, or even after they graduate, before they graduate, before they leave, providing that counseling to them as well.
I would imagine, and it's not just to them, it's to their parents, because a lot of families, a lot of people who are watching this right now still have not recovered from the Great Recession of several years ago. So parents may have put aside the money at one point, but it may not be there right now. And so many families may still be in the position that they have to take out those student loans.
Yeah, well, I think so. A lot of these loans, the financial aid is going to be based on earning, right? So FAFSA can be complicated. It can be somewhat daunting.
Just went through it,
right? So but take advantage of it. Seek whatever resources you need to seek, to whether that be at your local school, through a community college or a state college system, to get the advising you need on FAFSA, because that can make a huge difference.
Okay, let's take a pause here, and we're going to return for final thoughts in just a moment.
Check out mysuncoast.com/dining, your guide to the foodie lifestyle.
Come out to the best party of the season, the Goodwill Mardi Gras Gala on February 28th at Michael's on E. Tickets at experiencegoodwill.org.
Are you considering joint replacement or revision surgery? Consider this. Dr. Edward Stolarski has performed thousands of successful joint replacement procedures and trained surgeons from all over the world. Using advanced technologies, Dr. Stolarski is able to perform some of the most complex surgeries.
I wish I knew about Dr. Stolarski much sooner.
After the surgery, I don't have any pain. It's like I've got a 16-year-old hip.
My name's Ed Stolarski. What I really do is I give people back their life.
Schedule a consultation today.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need
the Debt Ninja. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, you could be facing wage garnishments, levies, liens, property seizure, cancellation of business license, closure of business. The Debt Ninja fights your IRS debt. That's why you need the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja has found the best companies in the country who are on your side to fight debt. Want to learn if you qualify for the IRS Financial Hardship Program? Stop the IRS from garnishing your wages. Even if your bank account has been seized, if you have undeclared taxes, if you have existing IRS debt, it's not too late to call, so grab your phone now. Call the Debt Ninja at 800-945-0083. That's 800-945-0083. Settle your IRS debt to get the power of the Debt Ninja. Dial this number now, 800-945-0083.
We're talking about Governor Rick Scott's plan to make college more affordable, and our guests join us now for final thoughts. From your perspective, from the college perspective, what do you want folks who are watching this to take away from this conversation and what the governor's proposal?
I think it's a good thing overall for our students. I think it's beneficial to incentivize them to graduate, and providing incentives like your summer Bright Futures program, also your tax-free books purchases is a good thing. And if you look about economically, really, the average student spends about $1,250 a year on book purchases. So that really equals to about $75 in savings. It's not that much money, but it actually could be critical for some of our students as well. The last point I want to make is also, when it comes to the economics and advising up front, meet with your advisor, be proactive, consider maybe, you may not be able to afford to go to a private school. Go to a community college and actually meet with them, actually think about the articulation agreements they have, the more affordable options they have available for 2 years associate's degree that actually can transfer to a 4-year.
Jacob, I would imagine your job is a little bit difficult right now because you don't know exactly what the landscape will be for next fall.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is data is always live in college counseling and in the college admission process. I will say, any education, any money invested in education is a good investment, whether that's personal or at the state level. So there is always good things that come from any type of investment. Our families are pretty fortunate, as my colleagues have pointed out. The debt is pretty low in Florida. We have got a robust community college and state college system that students should take advantage of. And overall, we've got very high quality higher education in the state.
Michael, is it possible to forecast how many more families and students will be able to get a college education in Florida if this goes through?
That's a difficult thing to do because there's not a whole lot of proposals that have been done nationally or in other states in which things like this have been done. And so there's really not a whole lot of data points that we can use to kind of compare against. But one thing that I think we need to keep in mind is that student debt is the most collectible type of debt there is. I mean, you can't declare bankruptcy on student debt. So anything that we can do, whether it's some of the proposals, some of the ideas, and certainly counseling, I think is a wonderful idea. Anything that we can do to kind of keep that debt to a minimum is certainly going to be a good thing, and some of these policies certainly could help.
And it might be helpful to be able to refinance that
Absolutely.
debt. All right. Before we go, we want to talk about what we did last Friday on ABC7, a recap of President Donald Trump's first week in office. The president has already signed more than a dozen executive orders, from opting out of TPP to building the wall with Mexico. Dozens of you shared your thoughts, including on the last executive action restricting immigrants from 7 countries from entering the U.S. B. Kyles writes, does not matter why they are here. Being detained is a great idea until they are proven to be here for a legitimate reason. No more BS. Americans and America first. But Billy Brooks writes, mass stupidity is spreading, yet Saudi Arabia princes can commit crimes and fly back home in private jets. Beverly Morrell writes, I feel like I have entered the Twilight Zone. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, want to watch past roundtable discussions? They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. I want to thank our guests for being here tonight. And when we return, we'll have a final look at your weather. Plus, the suspected gunman in last month's Fort Lauderdale airport shooting claims he is not guilty. The future for Esteban Santiago, if convicted in the deadly attack, when we come back.
Join us for Sarasota Opera's 2017 Winter Festival, opening February 11th. Featuring Puccini's most famous opera, Madame Butterfly, Rossini's delightful comedy, The Italian Girl in Algiers, Poulenc's heartbreaking dialogues of the Carmelites, and the medieval thriller, The Love of Three Kings by Italo Montemezzi. Tickets are on sale now. Call 941-328-1300 or visit sarasotaopera.org.
Attention small business owners. Penn Funding announces the easiest and fastest business funding program, the Platinum Business Account.
We needed cash fast. Business is good, but this is an emergency. We needed some new equipment, and the banks wouldn't help us.
At Penn Funding, we like to say, yes, you're approved. With your Platinum Business Account, you could qualify for up to $50,000 or more. This amazing new business account funding program is so effective, you could have the cash you need in just days.
I called, spoke with an agent who pre-qualified us, and connected me.
Call now for your Platinum Business Account. If you've been in business for at least 6 months, you could qualify for up to $50,000 or more in just days.
I called Penn Funding and had my money fast.
Need cash for your business? Call Penn Funding now.
Call 800-658-3433. 800-658-3433.
Primetime headlines are coming up, but first, Bob has a check on the forecast. Bob.
Well, Alan, I'll tell you what, we had a beautiful sunset this evening, and we are looking at our tower cam right now with generally clear skies up and down the coast. We are anticipating another cold night, though. Low temperatures will be into the upper 30s to mid 30s inland, and there are some advisories in effect for our area as a result of the clear, crisp night that we are anticipating. And it looks as though we will see a gradual warming trend, though, as we push through time, which is a good thing because we're going to see temperatures back above average as early as Wednesday, it appears. As early as Wednesday, we'll see high temperatures back into the mid to upper 70s. Well, some photos sent in tonight, some great photos, that is, across the Sun Coast, and we have them for you if we can, and we'll show you those right now. If we can, again, there it is. Finally, computer catching up. Fred Seeger getting this on Siesta Key. Those are altocumulus clouds, mid-level clouds at about 6,000 to 20,000 feet. And they can really shine as that sun sets below the horizon and kind of lights them up. Carol Hill getting that shot on Siesta Key. And Paul Taylor, the seagulls right there, the sun getting ready to set just after 6 o'clock this evening on Siesta Key. And Venice also showing those nice mid-level clouds lighting up with the nice mid-level clouds. I'll tell you what, we have patchy frost inland counties tonight. Not as windy tomorrow. It was a windy day today. Winds gusting as high as 20 miles an hour made it feel much cooler. And then it looks like above average temperatures by Wednesday. Highs will be back into the mid-70s. Our average high right around 72 degrees. Well, the cooler weather is around as a result of that northwesterly wind. That's going to stay with us. I mentioned overnight. Tomorrow's highs will still be below average, but as I mentioned, winds out of the east to southeast by Wednesday will get us back into the mid-70s. No rainfall around, and that's going to be a trend. We're not looking for any rainfall in the forecast over the upcoming week and into the weekend. Sarasota right now 54, Braden 56, 58 in Venice, and as far as the dew point temperature goes, that's low at 35 degrees, and the dew point temperature is the point at which the temperature would fall, and then the moisture starts to come out of the atmosphere in the form of dew or fog at times, and it can also inhibit frost or actually create frost. And right now at 35 degrees at the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport doesn't mean that we're not going to see the frost in Sarasota and Manatee counties. You have to have that number below freezing for that frost to form. And that'll happen, I think, as far as the dew point goes into inland counties, Highlands, also into Hardy and DeSoto counties. The high today was low at 63 degrees. Our average high 72, 85 the record. We won't get into the 80s later this week, but we will be into the mid to upper 70s. Low temperatures tonight, mid 40s, upper 40s if you're right on the coast, and some upper 30s, mainly east of I-75. Lakewood Ranch, you should be around 38, 39 degrees. Parrish at 37, and Bradenton, because of the river there, will be a little bit warmer, and with that north wind at 45. Now, the wind forecast is all important in keeping you a bit warmer. I know I was out there riding the bike today, and with that breeze coming in out of the north, it made it feel a lot cooler. The winds will switch around more to an easterly direction and not be nearly as strong tomorrow. Out of the east at around 5 to 10 miles an hour. Should be good boating weather, too. We had small craft advisories all day long with a high surf advisory, but things are improving on the front as far as the waters go. Now, the high-pressure ridge will block anything from entering into the weather picture anytime soon. On top of that, as it shifts off to the east, we always start to warm up here, and that is going to be a trend. A little clipper system, Alberta clipper, bringing some snowfall into the Great Lakes region. Well, for boaters tomorrow, I mentioned a little bit better tomorrow. Seas running 2 to 3 feet with a light chop. East winds at 10 knots. We'll switch around to 5 knots later on in the day, so really calm conditions out there. The extended forecast, there it is, 74, back above average right through the weekend. And we are going to see a gorgeous weekend up ahead. Al will be back with primetime headlines coming up next.
Whether a family member needs a little extra help around the house, assistance recovering from a hospital stay, or someone to check in on them throughout the week, Right at Home's in-home care is the answer. Your loved one deserves the right care, and now we need caregivers to help give the right care for the right reasons, the right way. At Right at Home, we're one of the only private home health agencies in this area with the opportunity to earn paid time off. If you're someone who loves helping people, take a look at our website and click on Jobs to join our team today.
Is your mop a dirty, disgusting mess? You need the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System, the only mop and bucket that spins the dirt away. A system that cleans practically anything and everything with super absorbent microfiber. Dip it in the washer side and the mess releases into the bucket. Then place it in the dryer side and push on a pedal. You get a clean mop head that's practically dry and ready for more. And your hands will never again touch a dirty, disgusting mop. The heads are washable and reusable. Get the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System for just 2 payments of $19.99. You'll also get a Sticky Buddy, the reusable sticky roller that picks up pet hair and lint and washes clean in seconds. You can take advantage of our 2-for-1 Pick It Up special and get a second spin mop set. Just pay additional shipping and fee. And we'll upgrade you to free priority handling. So don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-394-1524 to get your Hurricane Spin Mop double offer. So hurry and call 1-800-394-1524. Call now.
Raids in Canada today and security precautions in the U.S. after a deadly shooting at a Quebec mosque. Investigators say 2 gunmen opened fire last night during evening prayers, killing at least 6 people and injuring others. Police took 2 people into custody last night. So far, the motive remains a mystery. Canada's Prime Minister is calling it a terrorist attack.
very big sadness in our community, all the community, because we take together as a brother, and we love each other.
Authorities in New York City are beefing up security at local mosques. President Trump has called Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to express condolences and offer support. The suspect in the deadly Fort Lauderdale airport shooting is pleading not guilty. 5 people were killed and 6 were wounded during an arraignment today. 26-year-old Esteban Santiago told the judge that he understood each of the charges. Santiago could face the death penalty if convicted. President Trump says he will pick his Supreme Court nominee tomorrow night at 8 p.m. It is a decision that could leave his stamp on the High Court for years, maybe even decades to come. Karen Kafo looks at who is on Trump's shortlist.
President Trump will soon announce his pick to fill the Supreme Court vacancy left by the unexpected death of Antonin Scalia nearly 1 year ago.
We will pick a truly great Supreme Court justice.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell took a big election year gamble, betting Republicans would not only hold on to the Senate, but also win the White House. So when President Barack Obama nominated Merrick Garland to the court last March, it went ignored. And with the swearing in of the 115th Congress, effectively died. Now McConnell will shepherd Trump's nominee through confirmation.
There's a big difference between not approving a Supreme Court nominee in the middle of a highly contested presidential election and the beginning of a 4-year term.
Democratic leader Chuck Schumer says they won't dwell too much on the Garland snub, but will eye any nominee very carefully.
Look, clearly what they did with Garland was wrong, but we're not playing tit for tat here. We want a mainstream nominee because that's the right thing for America.
Despite Democratic objections, this first Supreme Court pick could be Trump's easiest battle with a guaranteed GOP majority. That's something that could tip in the 2018 midterms. So very early in his presidency, Trump has an opportunity to leave a conservative mark on the court that can last for decades to come. Those said to be on his short list could have long tenures here. Neil Gorsuch, nominated to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals in Colorado by George W. Bush, is 49 years old. William Pryor, another Bush appointment to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, is 54. Thomas Hardiman of the 3rd Circuit Court of Appeals is 51. He serves on the same court as Trump's sister, Mary Ann. Trump is said to have looked at about 20 names in conservative legal circles. Given the aging bench, many believe Trump will get another pick during his administration. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaffa.
And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us and have a great night.